Okay, so for this second credit transfer webinar series, we will focus on the topic communication mechanism between institutions. For the local section, we definitely hope that we can come up with something. Of course, we do not expect too much because they're 1 hour. Hopefully we can have a fruitful discussion and then we can work on it further to develop our local communication mechanism. Okay, so we will give a bit introduction again, in case some of you have not attended this webinar before and do not know our project. So this is a UGC funded teaching and learning project. The title is Enriching Senior Year Places Students Learning Experience through curricular and also co-curricular activities in Hong Kong's university. We have 4 universities participate in this project: PolyU, CTU, BU, and also CUHK. And for today's webinar, we will have a speaker from university side and also sub-degree institution. We really thank so very much for our speakers, like our 4 university project leaders. You can see Professor Peter Benz, and also Dr. Bing Lee, and also Professor Chow Ming, okay, and myself. And for the sub-degree institution, you can see that Mr. Tony Kwok from PolyU HKCC, and also Dr. Kathleen Chim is from OU HK Lee Pace, and Dr. Angela Lee from Dong College, and also Dr. Carol Poon from OU HK Lee Pace. So thank you very much for all the speakers. So let me start first, okay, to share what I have done to facilitate the communication between institutions, that means university and also sub-degree institution. I come from a nursing program. I'm also a program leader in the PolyU. So this is actually the PowerPoint I shared that in the conference we held in November last year. Okay. So what we did actually hopefully when I got this project, I tried to promote this mechanism, but it seems it doesn't work well. Okay, but for our nursing program in 2015 and 2016, our head Professor Alex Morris-Otis also want to align like the 3 UGC university to have a certain subjects that sub-degree institution, if they want to articulate to the nursing program. So see whether we can have some common subjects that the sub-degree institution can provide, and then they can get into the 3 university without like really, because right now I can see that some of the sub-degree institution, they have difficulty to articulate different university, the program, so that students seems that have to learn different things because different program in different universities have different requirements. Okay, so we have a meeting in 2015 and 2016 at PolyU. The main purpose is to try to ensure fairness and accountability in the SYA, we mean senior year admission students admission, to make the admission process more transparent, and also to give consideration to potential applicants from different institutions. We have the UGC funded university participate, CU, HK, Hong Kong U, and also PolyU. And you can see a list of the sub-degree institution. They offer some program related to nursing. Okay, so we invite them to join our meeting as well. Okay, so this is the picture. You can see, maybe you can see some of the familiar face from this photo. Okay, yeah. So the agenda in 2015, our goal, the agenda is to discuss the ways to encourage inter-institutional collaboration in terms of the program design and the delivery, and also ways to facilitate admission of the graduate so that they can have an equal opportunity to admit to the different UGC funded university. So actually we come up with some agreement, okay? So like for example, there's some generic subjects and also there's some clinical specific subject and also some fundamental subject related to healthcare, like for example, anatomy, physiology, sociology, psychology, microbiology, pathophysiology, and pharmacology, like that. And fundamental of health in nursing and traditional Chinese medicine. And some of those subjects. So some common subjects. So we are thinking about how to work together so that we have a common foundation subject so that sub-degree institution can offer those subjects. Yeah, but actually, even though we have this agreement, but it still have a long way to go because it seems the program, nursing program in the 3 UGC funded universities still have different requirements. So maybe later, probably not today because we don't have any nursing related program leader from the sub-degree institution. But from what I communicate with them, still have difficulties. Like for example, for some subject, they probably articulate with a certain university, then they cannot articulate with the PolyU, for example. So they have a 2 program, one program articulated to one university and then another program articulated to PolyU, for example, like that. So still the alignment still not very good, okay? Yeah, so and then 2016, we in the agenda to recap and see what we can do more in the future. Okay, so but still, we as I mentioned, still have more work to do because we, as I mentioned before, that we still cannot really have a common subject that sub-degree institution can offer and then get into the nursing program in 3 universities. Yeah. Okay, so for example, I think later Garmin can also talk about CU because in PolyU we have a subject-to-subject credit transfer, but I think CU have a broad like that, so that's a bit different. Yeah, I'm sure that you can get all the SY admission information in different university websites. Yeah, so this is my sharing in the PolyU. So may I now invite Professor Chow, Ming, to share your experience?
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm going to share the situation in Chinese University of Hong Kong. I'm not the program director in this academic year, but I'm the program director in previous academic year and also head of undergraduate division. So this is an overview of the requirement for senior year admission to our Bachelor of Nursing program. For students graduate from associate degree and high diploma in health studies, they are eligible to apply to have the senior year admission to our program. Students should have a minimum of 300 clinical hours in the aspect of medical, gerontology, community, or primary healthcare in the associate degree or high diploma program, and then they can apply for the admission. For the subjects required for course exemption in our program, students need to complete the courses. That means they need to achieve the minimum hours requirement as stipulated by the Nursing Council of Hong Kong in the anatomy, physiology. This is the list of the subjects which can apply to have the exemption from our program to make sure the student can graduate from Bachelor of Nursing program in 3 years. For the graduation requirement for senior year admission students, they need to complete the general education, including the general, that means the university and college, faculty package, English language, physical education, and nursing major in the Chinese University of Hong Kong. So this is the mechanism and strategies to communicate with the associate degree and high diploma program. We need to review the articulate articulated programs curriculum to make sure the course material actually match with the curriculum of our Bachelor of Nursing program, because we need to make sure students admitted through senior year admission can graduate in 3 years. For those colleges, they have students already admitted successfully to our program through senior year admission. The programs need to complete the course exemption form every year to ensure the course content and also the hours. And for newly requested programs, that means they didn't have any students successfully admitted through our senior year admission. They are required to submit all the course content, and also the content should be stipulated with the Nursing Council of Hong Kong's requirement. And we also arrange the clinical field visit to the college to facilitate our understanding of the students' clinical environment, because they should achieve 300 clinical hours in their program. And we need to make sure the clinical environment is in the similar standard with our program. And also admission talk are arranged for potential student every year. And also the students will attend the talk to learn more about our program's requirement. So this is the mechanism we adopted for many years. And actually the admission of students to our program and they successfully graduate from a program actually very successful. So this is our sharing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gaming. Okay, so may I now invite Dr. Bing Li to share your experience?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Hello, I'm Li Bing from City University. Well, I mean, not in medical science or nursing, I'm in linguistics. I'm glad to see Tony, also from language and communications. So I just want to share some of my experience in the past years. I've been working as the deputy major leader in my department, working for linguistics and language applications. In City, I think we have in the general information of the senior year admission. Information is shared online under the ARRO, the admission office. If a student is admitted and granted this advanced standing status, I think we have different names for the senior year admission students in different universities. And when students are granted this kind of advanced standing, we automatically will reduce, not we, I mean the university will automatically reduce their number of credit units, which will cover usually the university general education courses and foundation year courses. So just next is this table showing you the our own kind of summary, simplified table of those credits required for each student, for college requirements, general education requirements, and well, for students, advanced 1, advanced standing 2, would take 2 to 3 years to complete BA study. Okay? But when they come in, we gave them automatically these credit reduction, and also depending on their backgrounds in the associate degree, we will offer, in the department or in different major, we may offer exemption of certain core courses. Okay? But with this kind of course exemption, their credits is not exempted. They still need to take credits to register for courses to fulfill the credit requirements, just that they can skip those courses they have already taken in the associate degree years. Okay. But as I explained in the past, I remember Tony was also here last time, if I remember correctly. Our students are from a very diverse backgrounds, because it seems there is no linguistics as a major in the associate program. So our students actually are from English, Japanese, Korean, communication, and a variety of backgrounds. So it really takes us time to go through their background and see if they really wanted to apply for any exemption of courses. In the past, we do have 2 kinds of scenarios, and one that we offer course exemption to students when they say that they actually have taken certain core courses, but our offer sometimes may be kind of turned down by students because they really wanted to probably learn one more time about the same subject, probably aiming for higher GPA or aiming for better learning and more in-depth learning. And we also have other scenarios when students apply. They apply to for some course exemption, but we thought that their courses taken in the admission associate degree years may not be up to the standard of a BA course, and we may turn that kind of request down so that we can make sure that students can receive these lay down this foundation in the BA major. So this we see both things, right? Since we're talking about credit transfer regarding the overseas exchange, we see that when students returning from outbound exchange, we'll also consider credit transfer of courses they have taken in the partners university. Our major, our department will have a kind of internal requirement that student must have achieved a certain level of credits in order for that course to be transferred, that they have to achieve at least a C minus in order to transfer their course back to our course curriculum, to courses on our curriculum. Yeah. That's basically what I wanted to share with you. I'll be very glad to discuss and experiences and answer questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. So like from our like 3 universities sharing, it seems that there's some terminology used might be different as well. Like for example, exemption, like in CUHK, and also I heard that like CTU also use this term. Because in Poly UH exemption means that like recognize that subject content have been taken, so that actually students have to take another subject to replace this subject. So we don't, so that exemption. But I think from CU and also CTU exemption means like it's like could a transfer like that. Is that right?
Sorry, is that a question for me?
Yeah, whatever, just for discussion. And for me, even though in the university side, we have some not quite understand, maybe sub-degree institution might have this confusion as well, maybe, yeah. So what do you, is that right, Dr. Lee? Like exemption means that like a credit transfer?
Exemption, a course can be exempted, but credits not necessarily being exempted. They may still need to take that well, for our major, they need to fulfill 120 credits in order to graduate. So for the major core courses, the major elective, there's a number of certain number of credit they must fulfill. Even if they can be exempted from taking certain core courses, that, for example, 3 credits per course, they still have to try to find another course to fulfill that credit requirement.
Okay. So what about Professor Chow?
In Chinese U, I think we need to think about the requirement in 2 aspects. One is the minimum credit requirement by the university. The credit to be achieved before graduation depends on the period of study year of a student. If the student admitted to year 1, they will have more numbers of credit to be achieved in their 5-year program. For students admitted through senior year admission, because they study 3-year program only, so the minimum credit for graduation will be less than those students admitted to year 1. Another aspect is the requirement by nursing council. We use the exemption. For example, if the student can complete an anatomy program course in their associate degree or high diploma, and that course already 20 hours. And 20 hours is the minimum requirement by nursing council. Then we can exempt the students from studying anatomy in our program because they already achieved that hours in their associate degree, so they can be recognized by the nursing council. So this is a little bit different from other programs in the university. So we use exemption because they can be exempted to take those courses already completed in their associate degree or high diploma.
So maybe we can have some Q&A this before the subsidiary institution representative speakers to talk about their sharing. Any questions from the speakers or from the audience about this aspect? No? Okay, so if no, then we continue our sharing then. Okay, so since Peter probably caught up with something, so so may I invite Mr. Tony Kwok to share his experience?
Yes, hello, and give me the
Hi.
section, yeah, to do the share screen first. Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Kwok. I'm the program leader of Association Bilingual Communication. So, we always have graduates to go to programs for, Dr. Lee's program and other language programs in Hong Kong. So, I would like to share my views and my so-called voices, okay, from us as HKCC program leaders about how we can communicate with universities. Okay, so. When we talk about, I would like to start with some channels of communication. I will classify them as formal as well as informal. Now, the formal channel is usually every year, basically, we will be doing some kind of articulation partners feedback. Okay, we will collect some feedback from our articulation partners through two ways, most likely. First of all, through our questionnaire survey. Every year during the summertime, we will send a questionnaire to our articulation partners. And how do we know our articulation partners? It is from our statistics, from our graduate survey. Because when they graduate, they will have to indicate, okay, which university they have gone to and what program they are studying, they will be studying. So we will know, okay, how many students will go to which university, which program. After collecting such data, we will send questionnaire, okay, to the program leaders or to the person in charge of the program to get some ideas, okay, get some kind of communication with our university articulation partners, both UGC-funded institutions as well as self-financed institutions. And every year, because interview takes time, interview takes effort, so we will only select, usually in each program, we will select one UGC-funded articulation partner as well as one self-financed institution for our interview. We will usually meet face-to-face. Of course, only the COVID-19 will meet through Zoom, through other platforms, but we will meet with them, okay, to have a chit-chat on their programs, okay, requirements, credit transfer, all the issues, as well as our requirements, okay, what they have suggested us to do, like what subjects, okay, we have to strengthen, which subjects they found that less useful, we can do some revamp, something like that. So I think it's a very formal and very good channel for us to communicate with universities, okay? But in other way, okay, because we can do this only, once a year. So some kind of informal way, we will be doing some graduate sharing because our current students are very interested in knowing, okay, the updated news, updated university requirements for a particular program. So every year we will invite graduates, okay, from our program, from our AD or HG program, to come back to meet with our current students, and they will share with us, okay, what they know, okay, from the program they are studying. Because sometimes it will be difficult if I have questions, if I email the program leaders in universities, we find it very difficult. So we have students, because students are doing their programs very well in universities. So when they come back, they can share with our current students as well as us, okay, as program leaders, as well as the lecturers. We will also know, okay, some kind of updated arrangement, like conditional offers, okay, what subjects can be exempted, can be transferred, okay, what they have to do, what they have to select as the elective subject in their in their associate degree or high diploma, so that they can well prepare for the university, and they will know what they have to select, what they have to prepare themselves, okay, before they go to universities. So we found that these channels are very useful for us. Okay, so for course offering, for credit transfer, well, it all depends on the subject nature. if the subject is kind of the general education subjects, like language, the English, Chinese, Putonghua, that kind of subject, or mathematics, statistics, or critical thinking, that kind of general education subjects, usually it will be dealt with from the college, university level, okay? The whole college will send representative to universities, and universities usually, again, we send representatives to discuss on agreement, okay? Or we call it MOU, okay? Maybe in the next section we talk about MOU. When we make such of MOU, it would be much easier for every program, or at least for most programs in our ADHD programs, to follow, because these are the subjects that basically all students have to take, okay, in their first year of studying high dip or in their associate degree. So this is our operation usually. But for some kind of discipline-specific subjects, like for nursing, biology, okay, psychology, that kind of discipline-specific subjects, usually we will work on the program-to-program level. Okay, we will start from the program leader of associate degree to the respective program leader in the universities. Okay, or in terms of the scheme, if you have the scheme operation, if it is operated under the scheme level. Okay, because usually a scheme will have a group of similar programs, okay, of similar nature, similar disciplines, we will join together to form a scheme. So usually we will operate like this to work on some kind of specific arrangements on specific programs in relation to, like for me, language, communication, okay, we usually will discuss, okay, as a whole instead of one single program, but maybe some similar language programs as a whole. So usually we operate like this for credit transfer, for course offering. And for program restructuring, if we want to collect ideas, we want to restructure our AD or HIDIP program, usually before we do that, we will seek ideas, we will seek advice from a few ways. First of all, we will collect data, of course, usually through questionnaire survey to our current students, to the graduates, and usually they are doing their undergraduate degree programs in universities. So we collect ideas from them. And of course, we will ask for program leaders in the university programs, we will ask for their ideas, because what they expect will be very important for our program development. Moreover, we also conduct interviews with major articulation partners. Now, this is one of the challenges, because some of our programs, we have multiple articulation pathways. We have a lot of programs, we have a lot of articulation partners. We can't cover all of them. So we can only select our major articulation partners for interview based on our graduation statistics. And of course, the third way, we'll be seeking advice from our external academic advisor. And usually these academic advisors are professors working in universities in Hong Kong, okay, different universities in Hong Kong. So they will give us some kind of good ideas, okay, how they'll expect. And these are the ways that we collect ideas and we do communication with universities. And to end with, I would like to end with some challenges from us, okay? For ADHD institutions like us at KCC, sometimes we might have some kind of challenges when communicating with universities. First of all, like my program, well, many ADHD programs like us were designed actually for students' articulation in various disciplines. Like, for example, in my program is called Associate in Bilingual Communication. So our graduates can articulate to English-related programs, Chinese, you can see linguistics, language and speech sciences, translation, communication, or even others like history, culture, okay, or all these kinds of humanities subjects. So when we do, communication, when we talk about arrangement of credit transfer, you can imagine how difficult it is, because they can articulate to multiple disciplines. Even within the same discipline, there are many undergraduate programs available in the market. Like for linguistics, we have CTU, we have CUHK, right? We have Hong Kong U, we have many institutions. So when we talk about arrangement, it will be very difficult, because we have to spend a lot of time talking to, hundreds of program leaders to talk about arrangements. So that will be very challenging for us. And don't forget that some population of some of the ADHD program may not be large. Like my program, maybe the graduates may be around 40, 50, or maybe 30, right, from each year. So they may get 2 to Hong Kong U linguistics, 2 for a TUHK, okay, 3 for Poly U, something like that. So again, the small number of students may make it very difficult for it to talk. I mean, to make agreements on those credit transfer. Lastly, while ADHD program structure should be fit for articulation, because usually for most ADHD programs in Hong Kong, the first year is for foundation. Okay, the general education subjects, English, Chinese, some kind of statistics, critical thinking, sort of things. Okay, so that the structure should be fit for senior year. But of course, when we talk about aligning program outcomes, because we are aiming at multiple articulation pathways, sometimes the program outcome cannot be aligned with all undergraduate programs. Okay, and we can't design one AD program just for one particular undergraduate program because it will limit our articulation pathway. So this is one of our difficulty when we think of communication with universities. Okay, that's all for me now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, and you very good. You end sharing with some challenges, so we can talk about that later. I see whether the audience and also speaker have some thought about that. Okay, so now may I invite Dr. Carol Poon,
okay,
from OUHK Pace. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me this chance to share my challenges to you. I want to say that almost Tony have pointed out all the challenges and obstacles we are facing for communicating with university. I need to say it like this, especially I'm the representative of OUHK Pace, and I'm the team leaders of. I need to say that my program is really very, very diversified. I have design and cultural studies and even have language. And most of my students, especially I'm the program leader of the Japanese studies just mentioned in last sharing. And so that's why I said that most of my students are very interested in Dr. Lee program, which is Asian and International Studies. So to me, the most important challenge, I want to mention the challenge because most of those formal or informal communication with the university Paul have mentioned, because we also will arrange quite a number of articulation talk for our students, because basically, usually we will invite the university program leader to give a talk for our students because they are really very interested in the UGC pacing. We need to say it this way. And then apart from that, for example, let's say my Japanese program at an example, the articulation pathway is not that diversified. I want to say that maybe I can only articulate to Hong Kong U or CU because only those two of them have BA in Japanese studies. But the other choice for them is AIS, I need to say in this way, offered by CTUs, Asian International Studies. So because most of the students want to articulate, so it is really very interesting that most of the communication with university will depends on, or will be go to the program leader. Because if the program leader don't help the students to try to communicate with the university, they don't have those information. Even they have this kind of information online, but they want to know more. So they don't have a chance to communicate with most of the university program provider. And let's say Japanese as examples. It is very interesting that apart from local articulation, sometimes we will help them to arrange some overseas articulation. So that's why it also heavily depends on the connections and the network and the communication with the overseas partner. Let's say Nippes as an example. We try to sign up quite a number, over 10 Japanese universities to help our students to do this kind of articulation. But especially because those articulation is overseas, the communication, that informations or those application, all those information will be heavily based on the only one or single teacher in order to help to arrange this kind of to have this kind of admission arrangement. So I think that apart from formal this kind of arrangement, informal, just like what Paul said, is that we also heavily depend on our graduate. Most of our graduates come to share what they learn from those universities, or how they do this kind of articulation, or how they apply, or how they do this the interview. So we need to gather information from our graduate also. And usually, I want to mention one more point, because most of them are really very similar. Because maybe I'm thinking that higher education, or especially just like this kind of self-finance institutes, students usually want a pace, especially in UGC. So one of the final point I want to share is that, although the internet is really very clear, lists out all the information, I think that maybe more communication between the university with us will be more helpful to the student to get a place in their senior entry. So this is one of the things I want to mention. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Poon. So later we can also discuss a bit more like what Dr. Poon mentioned, more communication. So how much more and how we can develop a mechanism for this communication is important, because right now we can all hear that it's very scattering, right? So it all depends on the program leader, and since we don't have a regular or structural systematic mechanism. Yeah. Okay, so now may I invite Dr. Kathleen Chim to share your experience from OUHK LePace.
Okay, so thank you very much for having me in this webinar, and for giving me this opportunity to learn and to share some of my experience in working with our partner institutions to help facilitate articulation arrangements for our students. So at LePace, I basically look after, my team manages different kinds of programs, and I'd just like to focus on the psychology related programs here for the purpose of this webinar today. I think we would all agree that for sub-degree programs, having articulation arrangements is very important for our students, because by spending 2 years with us, students obviously would want to receive some kind of recognition of their studies. And one of these is being able to fast track their studies at a partner institution. So for our psychology program so far, we have established articulation agreements with the School of Arts and Social Sciences of our main campus of OUHK, the Hong Kong Shuyang University, and the Education University of Hong Kong for various psychology related programs. And like what Dr. Carol Poon said, at our school, our programs are basically mainly being looked after by a program leader. And the program leader plays a very, very important role in providing ground level support to students with planning their further studies. And usually this involves encouraging them to attend open days and arranging articulation talks for them, like what Dr. Tony Kwok mentioned earlier on. So in my experience, the arrangements of articulation talks can happen in different ways. So for example, the communication usually starts with an email to the department head or designated coordinator or the admissions office. Sometimes I would receive program information and updates from these institutions by post. There's usually a letter attached to it with all the relevant contact details to discuss arrangements. In terms of making arrangements for an articulation talk, it's not always as straightforward, I have to say, as we would like, because I think Dr. Carol Poon mentioned some of the challenges too. And in my experience, because we have to try to accommodate the timetables of our students, as well as the schedules of our partner and our own staff, and things can get a little bit more tricky as well, because we usually try to gather students from more than one study program, and we would invite not just our year 2, but also our year 1 students to attend the talk, just so that students can actually hopefully put themselves in the right frame of mind earlier, and they could use the summertime of the first year of the study to find ways to strengthen their profiles. That would be the aim. I think thanks to COVID-19, whereas we used to arrange our articulation talks face-to-face, nowadays we actually arrange them via Zoom. And we actually started doing this 2 years ago. And I think that just makes things a lot easier for everybody, because we don't have to worry about, let's say, booking an appropriate venue or taking traveling time into consideration when scheduling with our partner. So that's just really helpful. I mean, for any of these articulation talks that we arrange, we would let students know that they are all voluntary. And I think that's very important, that they know they don't have any obligation to submit an application or take the program, because we understand that students may have other programs in mind they would like to apply. So in terms of the articulation talk itself, we usually have it done in a casual manner, either in Cantonese or bilingual, if we do have international students or students from mainland China. And we would always pass this information to our partner institution a few days before the arrangement, as well as, let's say, the number of participants to be expected, the study programs, the year of study, just so that our partner can have a better idea of who's actually in the audience. Staff-wise, the talk will be attended by myself, the program leader, the program assistant, and our associate director, just to provide support and to find out the latest updates on our articulation programs. And students generally find these articulation talks very useful because they would find out a lot of different information, such as the features of the articulation programs, the timeline of applications and interviews. That's very important because you know what students can be like sometimes, especially when they have a lot of assignment deadlines coming up. And also like the criteria, expectations, the sort of things that they may expect to happen at an interview, and also the contact details of program leaders. So these are all very useful information. So students get to know who they can reach out to if they have any questions, and get to know more about the program, the staff and the requirements, and they can contact them directly themselves. So as mentioned earlier by Dr. Tony Kwok, we also arrange graduate sharing sessions regularly, and this is done through Zoom nowadays, but back then we used to do it face-to-face before the COVID-19 pandemic. And students find these sessions very inspiring and helpful because they get to hear how these graduates have sort of paved their paths of their own professional development. And so our graduates can actually serve as group role models for our students. And I think because articulation talks are not something that happen regularly. And for us, they usually happen once a year, usually during semester A. And so to help us maintain the communication channel with our partner institutions, I think we could explore ways to collaborate with them other than in addition to the articulation talks, such as arranging visits to their facilities. But obviously this would depend very much on the development of the COVID-19 situation. In fact, we did actually make arrangements to visit various facilities of our partner institution over a year ago, but they all had to be cancelled for the obvious reasons. We are still trying to see when we could actually have these arrangements resumed. And another way which is probably less affected by the situation with COVID is through arranging things like workshops and guest lectures delivered by the faculty members of our partner institution, so that I think the partnership relationship can become sort of stronger, and it just makes everything seem more real for the students, the faculty, and the staff alike. Yeah, so that's it for my sharing, and I hope that in the near future we'll be able to work more closely with our partner institutions and to expand our articulation lists with more higher education providers for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kathleen Chim. Yeah, I think you mentioned that like there's quite a lot of partnership articulation activities. So, and also I think we can discuss further later how we can make it more structured, I guess. Yeah, because right now, as you mentioned, that like the articulation talk only once a year. And then you have to organize some talk, like a visit or guest lecture or something like that. But it seems not very regular, right? In the way like that. So let's see how we can formulate a more structured way in the future. So may I now invite Dr. Angela Lee from Tonghua College.
Hello. And
hi.
Hi, you can hear me, right? So I share my screen. Okay, so everybody can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Okay, I make it full screen. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Angela Lee from Dongwha College. So very nice to meet everyone in this webinar. It's also very nice to have this chance to share some points of the articulation and the credit transfer from the Dongwha College. So now, currently, I'm the program leader of the High Diploma in Health Science. So a High Diploma in Health Science is actually a new program in Dongwha College. This program was launched in 2018. So here actually in 2019, this program is included into the SSSDP. And actually the High Diploma in Health Science, the purpose of the training include the employment and the further study. And today, actually, we'll focus more on the further study of the High Diploma in Health Science, they practice in Hong Kong. Basically, actually, this course is quite new. So once we design this course, we focus more on the possible articulation pathway in Dongwha College. Actually, we understand that in Dongwha College now we have senior entry in health-related programs. For example, the medical science, the nursing, the gerontology. So actually, once we design our courses, we consider that the students, maybe half of them, may articulate in the bachelor degree in these three senior entry programs. So lucky we have a lot of the senior entry. So this is why we can actually, once we design our program, it's easy for us to explain to the Hong Kong CAVQ that actually we can keep a good articulation. And so actually till now, our students, the graduates, only one cohort of graduates, they have in last year, the students articulate to our program, and most of them in the medical science. And here, once we design the program for the articulation, we also face another problem is that some of the students may really want to articulate into the UGC program, like the CUHK, Poly U, Hong Kong U. That because I believe everybody wants to move to a better university in Hong Kong. So once we help the student to make articulation to the university outside Hong Kong, we find some of the problems. Outside the Dongwha College, we find some problems. So the local university or the colleges, we consider some of the program like the nursing program, like we have the health science, the components in our program, in the curriculum, like the human anatomy, physiology, the pathophysiology, everybody will study about that. But once we move to the local university or the college, we found that even we provide the same like the pathophysiology, some of the requirements may be different in like the CUHK, just like Professor Chow mentioned that you have some of the other requirements. So here, once the student moves on, we'll face some of the problems to give the clear guidelines to the students. How can they achieve the requirements of other universities? So here are some of the challenges we actually encountered when we guide the student to articulate. Here, I list some of them out. First one is that we found that on the website of the college, they are not very clear. Basically, actually, we know we can provide some of the guidelines, like you should have the human anatomy, you should have physiology, you should have some of the practice, but actually the details of the courses, actually nobody knows. So here, most of the course, once the student moves to the credit transfer, they make credit transfer, maybe they're informed by the college that course you cannot meet some components of our course, so we cannot give you credit transfer. So in this way, actually, it's back to the case-by-case conditions. So that means nobody knows what will happen once the student moves on to the other university. The second one is that we know that some of the senior entry we set for 3 years, but due to your course are not matched such well with the other colleges course, so the student may need further years, like the 4 years. Some of the college even say that you need to move from the year 1 study. So to our students, actually, they thought that if I take a high diploma, I spend 2 years studying. So it assumed that I should finish my study in 3 years or half, 3.5 years. So to the student that the duration of study period is out of control. They don't know if they move to other universities. If you stay in our Tonghua College, it's very clear. We can give them that 3 years, you can finish that. But if they move out, they will never know how long they will spend in the future study. So this is a key concern for some of the students. And also here, actually, we are once we design a course, I believe most of the sub-degree we target on certain type of the articulation. But I think that the best system is that we can have the open system. So that means I can move to any college, any institutions in the local. But finally, we found that we design our course. We finally found that the condition become the closed system. So the student, even we provide a lot of courses, can match with other programs, but finally, they have no other choice. They have to stay inside the Tonghua College because we can give them clear instruction, how long, how many subjects, and even how much are the money. So here, actually, to the students, if they have the clear instruction, they will prefer to choose the course. So that is why even we want to make a system into the open system, but finally it's become a closed system, just the target in the Tonghua College. So I think that our future direction for this webinar, I believe, is that how to establish the accountable conditions for whole sub-degrees. How can I count my previous study into my future study? So any system or any mechanisms help us to make a multiple choice, not just in the closed system, but also to other open system to other universities. So here, this is some of the sharing, and I'm very glad to see that a lot of the college from different universities, we work together. I wish we can have the structural mechanism help all the sub-degrees can successfully articulate into different types of the courses in the local system. And thank you all. I finish my sharing here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Lee. Okay, so I think we, from all the sharing, I'm not sure the audience that you are sit another side, do you have the similar feeling about this communication mechanism? It's actually is not quite clear. And also it's like a kind of closed, not quite transparent. Yeah, okay. So let's see, audience, do you have any questions? Anything that you want to ask? Before we open up. Yeah. Okay, so let me see, there's a question, I think. Okay, from Nicholas. Thank you for sharing. Good to learn from you all, the experts from different institutions. Just want to ask, high dip graduate at a private institution are limited to self-articulation to degree program at own institution? How do UGC institutions offer more opportunity for those graduates to meet there? Okay, so for me, okay, in case, because of what Dr. Lee talked about, there's a nursing program. So I'm not sure for Professor Chow later can share. So I think we can work together. I think, like for example, the program leader from Tung Wah College. Actually, I think I know Ken too. Ken in Tung Wah College. We do mention a bit, but we didn't really take an action. We do in one of the other meeting, we did bring up this issue whether we can have articulation, but we didn't go further. So I think we can talk about it, see certain subject that whether it can articulate. For example, as I mentioned before, like anatomy, physiology, sociology, psychology. I think those are the common subjects. So I'm sure that we can work it out. But this is still is a not a very structural mechanism, I think. Yeah. So to answer Nicholas' question, that I think we can, I guess it's a communication. Yeah, but now is how to communication, how to communicate efficiently is a question right now. So maybe Professor Chow, do you have anything to add to these questions?
For this question, I think the candidates need to meet the admission requirement of the UGC in the university, because the university has a minimum requirement for those students admitted to every program. And also each department should have their minimum requirement. And also for nursing, actually there are requirements by the nursing council, because all the nurses register with registered nurse general, they need to meet the minimum requirement. So I think a several level of requirement for the candidates, and candidates should check for whether they meet the requirement, and then they can try to attend the admission talk to know more about the each program's difference, and then submit the application.
Okay, thank you. So I just wonder whether there's any audience that are from university, UGC funded university. Do you have any comment or suggestions? I think it will be good that like we can, actually this webinar is not really very formal. It can be very informal. We can have a dialogue, discussion, have fun, okay? So no need to be very serious, okay? So let's see how we can work it out, okay? And also last time in the overseas sharing, there's different level of communication, right? From the program level, from the maybe faculty level, and then university level, like that. Yeah. And also one of the speaker from the community college, Mary Coppola community college, Rose, actually also initiate lots of initiation to facilitate the articulation. So I think both sides, we need to work hand in hand, but at the same time, we can, hopefully we here right now provide a platform to work further. So because of the time, can we just quickly discuss one point? Because like multiple articulation, like the way that we can develop, like in the US, I think probably still need a long way, right? Because for them, they already have a very well-established system, like a certain subject, they already discussed, and if they finish, they can, the university will recognize those subjects like that. So I think for us still have a long way to work on a small step. What do you think will be the small step we need to do right now as the priority?
I'm thinking that maybe I'm just wondering, maybe we want to enhance our communication, regular meeting, or make regular meeting up between universities and our higher education institutes. It seems much more helpful, because especially in our last time sharing, I remember in last month or a few weeks before, we talked about the transfer transparency is not really very clear because we don't know how many pages is going for us to do the articulation, especially
Right.
year entry. So if it is possible, even half, even twice a year or one times a year, maybe it is already very helpful for community college to articulate to the UGC. This is one of my from the discussion I have, this kind of brainstorming only. So I don't know whether it is work or not. Even set up a working group for helping or supporting the communication between the two different institutions or university. It seems to be really very helpful for the student or the graduate. This is what I think.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Yeah, so any others? Just feel free. I know the time is already past 2 p.m., but just feel free to say something. I think like a working group or task force, I think it will be a first step, I think. But what do you think? What others think?
To add to what Dr. Poon has mentioned, I think I strongly agree with having or arranging some kind of working groups, how regular that might be. And I think it will be useful to have a faculty member and a member from the senior management and also a student or a graduate to attend from at least 3 people from each institution so that they can actually share the different perspectives on the same platform. Yeah.
Okay, you mean the working group will include those in the management and student as well,
Yeah,
and also frontline.
Yes, definitely, yes.
What about others? Do you agree with those first step that we need to do, have a task force, a working group, or so once we have the task force or working group, then we will have a regular meeting then. Yeah.
Sure.
Of course.
I do think that the working group should help. I mean, with communication between ADHD institutions as well as universities. And I'm just thinking of a brainstorming of having a conference like, okay, in the first part, we understand some kind of international operation, like the US would like what the series is going, right? We can hear of some kind of arrangement, common practice in US, in Europe, or other countries. And now in our student, maybe we can have some breakout sections, okay, with the different disciplines sitting together, maybe languages, okay, come together, or nursing come together. We can have a chit chat on some kind of basic arrangement because we usually communicate through email. Okay, we can never meet face to face, even in Zoom. So, but this provides us, I mean, this can provide us a very good platform to communicate. At least we know each other. Okay, you are the program leader of blah, blah, blah program. At least we can meet with each other. And then further, we can collaborate. We can work on the agreement on subject or even some kind of credit transfer arrangement. I think it would be good for universities as well as for us as sub-degree institutions.
So you mean like besides the working group, so conference is another way, right? Yeah. So we have a conference before, like in November. So in the future, hopefully we can organize another one, the conference that, like for example, like the organization you mentioned, like the morning will be kind of a sharing the common practice from other countries, okay? And then the PM section will be our local. Any others? About Dr. Lee, Angela Lee?
Oh.
Do you have anything I'm sure that you support it. I can see you nod your head.
I support, yeah. Because I think that work group is a task force. It's a very, very useful way that we can meet regularly. We can share our views face to face, even on the Zoom. So I think that we need such a meeting to actually form some of the mechanisms in local to support the articulation pathway in the local practice. So it's very important. Yeah, I do agree. Yeah,
okay, thank you. So because of time, I just wonder whether the audience, do you have any thoughts wisdom. I think we need some kind of wisdom here, because I think last time US mentioned that they spent 60 years, right, to come to now. So we don't want to take that long. We want to be shorter. So so that's why we would like to put all our wisdom together. So let's see any question from any thoughts from the audience. The speaker already mentioned that, like the working groups. So and they have a regular meeting, and then maybe a conference. Yeah, and then maybe like this kind of webinar. It doesn't really use a lot of money, but you can pull some of the key person together. Yeah. So I think one of the benefits from this COVID, even though we don't want it, okay. So but at least they really speed up the like online activities, and also very efficient in some way. Yeah. So audience, do you have any suggestions? You can put on the chat, or just turn on your speaker microphone, then you can talk. Okay, so maybe maybe we end our webinar today, but you know that there's another webinar on 26th. Okay, that will be the MOU. So I also heard Tony mention the MOU before. That's something that I don't know actually. Yeah. So so our next webinar will be the establishment of the MOU between institutions. That will be on the 26th, 10 to 11 a.m. Because in US, we will have the same 3 speakers from last time. Because over there, they were 7 p.m. in the evening. Yeah. Okay, and then we will have another one for our local section. Right now, tentatively will be June 3rd, 1 to 2 p.m. in the lunch hours. Similar to the previous arrangement, we will collect your feedback and also send you a certificate. And also we will upload the PowerPoint and also this recorded webinar in our website. So please feel free to visit our website and also send us whatever you think of. Okay, any suggestion through email, that's fine, even though right now you haven't thought of anything, but you can always send us an email. So thank you again for your participation. See you next time.